Every innovation, every fortune has an unseen architect, a hidden force shaping its destiny. You see the surface, the headlines, the triumphs. But what truly lies beneath? What gears turn? What secrets are kept? What strategies are deployed in the shadows of the world's most powerful industries? Compound, we reveal the unseen, the critical pivots, the overlooked data, the brilliant minds you've never heard of, and the audacious gambles that redefined the future. In the year 2004, the digital world was governed by a simple, brutal rule: delete everything. Your inbox was a battlefield, a constant war against a relentless enemy, the storage limit. Every day, users of Hotmail and Yahoo would perform a grim ritual, manually deleting precious emails, photos from family, and important records, just to make space for the new ones arriving. Storage wasn't a feature, it was a commodity. A few megabytes were granted for free, but anything more came at a price. This was the accepted reality, an unbreakable law of the internet. But on April 1st, 2004, a single company would break that law, and the world thought it was a joke. The company was Google, and the product they announced offered 1 gigabyte of free storage, 1,000 megabytes, nearly 500 times more than the competition. It was so outlandish, so impossible, that on April Fool's Day, nobody believed it. But it was real. And it wasn't just a product, it was a revolution, born from a secret project that was never supposed to exist, a project that was dismissed by Google's own leadership, built in the shadows by a handful of rebellious engineers, and almost shut down on multiple occasions. This is the real story of how a small, accidental side project, codenamed Caribou, defied its own creators to become Gmail. The service that would not only kill an entire industry, but would fundamentally change our relationship with the internet forever, generating billions for the company that never even wanted it in the first place. To understand how Gmail was born, you have to understand the Google of the early 2000s. This wasn't the sprawling, alphabetized titan we know today. This was a company laser-focused on one thing: search. And it was staggeringly good at it. Google had cracked the code to indexing the web, and in doing so had built one of the most profitable business models in human history. It was a money-printing machine. The company was flush with cash from its AdWords revenue, and it fostered a unique, almost academic culture of innovation. The unofficial motto was "Don't be evil," and its campus felt more like a university than a corporate headquarters. The most legendary perk of this culture was known as 20% time. It was a simple yet radical idea. Engineers were encouraged to spend 1/5 of their work week on personal projects, anything they were passionate about, as long as it could, in theory, one day benefit Google. It was an environment of unparalleled creative freedom, a playground for some of the brightest minds in the world. And it was from within this creative cauldron that some of Google's most iconic products would emerge: Google News, AdSense, and a project started by one of Google's earliest employees, engineer Paul Buchheit. Buchheit was frustrated. Like everyone else, he was tired of the digital housekeeping required to manage his email. But he was also a search engineer. He spent his days building systems that could instantly find a needle in the infinite haystack of the internet. A question began to form in his mind. Why was it easier to search the entire World Wide Web than it was to search your own inbox? Why were we still organizing emails into clumsy manual folders when we had the power of search at our fingertips? He saw the fatal flaw in the existing email landscape. Companies like Microsoft and Yahoo saw email as a storage problem to be monetized. Buchheit saw it as a search problem to be solved. And in his 20% time, he began to build a solution. He wasn't trying to build a product for the world, he was just trying to solve his own problem. He started work on a new kind of email service, one that was fast, efficient, and most importantly, searchable. Paul Buchheit's project, initially codenamed Caribou after a cartoon he saw, was an internal marvel. It used Google's powerful search capabilities to let users instantly find any email they had ever sent or received. It automatically grouped replies into conversations, cleaning up the cluttered inbox. It was, for the few dozen Google employees who used it, a game changer. But a cool internal tool and a public-facing product are two very different things. When the idea was floated to turn this project into an actual Google product, the resistance from management was immediate and intense. The business logic seemed sound. Why would Google enter the email market? It was seen as a solved problem. It was crowded, dominated by two giants, Microsoft's Hotmail and Yahoo Mail. They had hundreds of millions of users. Building an email service required massive investments in servers and infrastructure, and for what? The market was saturated. Worse, it wasn't search. It was a distraction from Google's core multi-billion-dollar business. Several executives argued forcefully against it. It will never work, they said. The project was put on the back burner, a low-priority initiative. For a time, it seemed destined to remain nothing more than a quirky internal tool for Google employees. This was the fatal flaw, the moment of corporate blindness. The leadership, so focused on protecting their existing kingdom of search, couldn't see the new continent waiting to be discovered. But Buchheit and his small team of engineers persisted. They kept working on it in their 20% time, quietly improving it, believing in its potential. They knew they had something special. The problem was proving it. The challenge became a political one. How do you convince a data-driven company to make a multi-million-dollar bet on a project that the data says is a bad idea? The breakthrough came when they decided to embrace what made Google, Google. Storage. At the time, Google was buying hard drives by the truckload for its search indexes. They were getting cheaper every day. The team ran the numbers. They realized they could offer an amount of storage so ridiculously large it would seem impossible. Not 2 or 4 or even 10 megabytes, but 1 full gigabyte. It was a marketing hook and a technical solution in one. With a gigabyte of storage, users would never have to delete an email again. And if you never delete anything, you need one thing more than anything else, a powerful search bar. It was the perfect Trojan horse for Google's core strength. The idea was so audacious that it finally caught the attention of Google's founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin. The project was given a cautious, skeptical green light. The date chosen for the launch was April 1, 2004. It was a decision that perfectly encapsulated the company's confidence and its playful arrogance. The announcement went out, and the tech world laughed. A gigabyte of storage on April Fool's Day? Good one, Google. The press widely reported it as a classic prank. But as the day wore on, it became clear this was no joke. The product was real, and it was invitation only. This masterstroke of marketing turned a product launch into a phenomenon. An invitation to Gmail became the hottest status symbol in Silicon Valley. Invites were being sold on eBay for over $100. The scarcity created an unprecedented level of hype and desire. For Microsoft and Yahoo, April 1st was the beginning of the end. Their entire business model was predicated on selling storage. Gmail wasn't just offering 10 or 20 times more storage, it was offering almost 500 times more, for free. It was a torpedo that struck them below the waterline. They were, in a word, annihilated. Overnight, their paid storage tiers became worthless. Their free offerings looked pathetic. They scrambled to react, announcing their own plans to increase storage, but it was too little, too late. The damage was done. The perception had shifted. Hotmail and Yahoo were the past. Gmail was the future. The public flocked to Gmail not just for the storage, but for the speed, the clean interface, and the magic of a search bar that actually worked. The conversation threading, once a niche feature, became an industry standard. The downfall wasn't just a loss of market share for competitors, it was a complete and total demolition of the old way of thinking. The war for the inbox was over, and a secret side project built against the orders of management had won. Gmail's victory wasn't just about email. It was the first step in Google's evolution from a search engine into a true platform. By capturing the inbox, Google had captured the central hub of a user's digital life. It was the key that would unlock a much larger empire. With a Google account, a Gmail account, users could now seamlessly access a growing ecosystem of services: Google Calendar, Google Docs, Google Drive, and later, Android. The accidental email product had become the digital passport for the entire Google universe. It fed Google more data about its users' interests, communications, and purchases, making its core advertising business even more powerful. The legacy of Paul Buchheit's 20% project is almost impossible to overstate. It validated the philosophy of giving engineers the freedom to innovate. It proved that a single disruptive idea could topple giants, and it fundamentally changed our expectations for what software should be. We no longer tolerate slow, clunky interfaces or artificial limits on our data. We expect everything to be instant, searchable, and infinite. Today, Gmail has over 1.8 billion active users, controlling more than 40% of the global email client market. It is the undisputed king, a multi-billion-dollar pillar of one of the world's most powerful companies. And it all started because one engineer was tired of deleting his emails in a company that encouraged him to spend a fifth of his time on whatever he wanted. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas aren't found in a boardroom or a business plan. They're found in the quiet side projects, the secret experiments, and the stubborn refusal to accept that a problem is solved.